Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about some super cool budget gems you might not be aware of. These cards are extremely strong and I've personally run all of them. So I'd recommend giving them a check out. Here we go with number 1. Number 1 is Morbid Opportunist. For 2 and a black, you get a 1/3 human rogue. Whenever one or more other creatures die, draw a card. This triggers only once each turn. Now you may think, once each turn, that kinda sucks. Well, the fact that it triggers off of whenever anyone's creature dies, and it triggers each turn, is extremely strong considering the fact that it doesn't even care if it's a token. If you're playing, let's say, Beladros for instance, and you're able to sacrifice the very dudes that he makes each turn, then you're drawing a free 4 cards each turn for 3 mana. That's really good. Think about it like this. Phyrexian Arena guaranteed draws you 1 card a turn, but just 1 card. If one creature dies on your turn and someone else's turn, you've already drawn more cards than the famous Phyrexian Arena can draw you, and you didn't lose any life to do so. Speaking of drawing an absurd amount of cards, let's show you an even bigger one. 4 and 2 black for a 1/8 Reach Soulbond for Doomweaver. As long as Doomweaver is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has, whenever this creature dies, draw cards equal to its power. Now I hear you say, 6 mana? That's a lot for a card draw engine. Well, this thing is kind of an insane card draw engine. You can pair it with a new thing every time a thing enters. And even if they wind up killing it, it replaces itself for a card. Not the worst, but not the best. This is especially prominent in the deck Henzi, because every creature you blitz in is guaranteed going to die. Let's say you blitz in a Shivan Dragon or something. That creature will come in, do its thing, smack someone in the face, in phase sacrifice itself, draw 5 cards for literally no effort. And if you play something immediately after, you can soulbond right to that. And the fact that it doesn't cost you life is kind of insane. Definitely check this card out if you run a deck with black in the identity and creatures with at least 3 or more power dying on the regular. Continuing down the line of cool value black cards, we have Vat of Rebirth for 1 black mana. You get an artifact that says whenever another artifact or creature you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on Vat of Rebirth. Then pay 2 and a black, tap it, remove 4 oil counters from Vat of Rebirth, return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. So you think, every 4 creatures I get 1, that's kind of a raw deal. Well, it doesn't care if it's a token or not. So if you're sacrificing clues or artifacts or treasures, and even just a bunch of weenies that you make from some kind of mass token producing card, then you can revive the very thing that made the very weenies. It is a very good card, very underrated, and if you play a deck of especially treasures or clues, if your deck makes a lot of tokens that sacrifice or die in any way, being able to reanimate a creature every single turn for 3 mana is really, really powerful. I would definitely give it a check out if you have a deck that indeed has a bunch of artifacts or creatures dying a lot. Next up we have a twofer. We have Dramatic Entrance, which is green and 3 for an instant. Put any green creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Just right there. Easy peasy. And then we have Lure of Prey, which is 1 less mana, and requires your opponent to cast a creature on their turn, something that happens all the time. And then you again get to put a green creature from your hand onto the battlefield on your opponent's turn.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Now, what is the significance of this, you might ask? Well, that creature will effectively have haste because you're putting it on your end phase of your opponent's turn, and then you get to then have it ready to rock for your turn. Or you can use it to drop in a blocker when they think that you're open. It's very versatile and, in my opinion, very powerful in mono green decks and even some dual color decks. Try Maybe. It does only care if it's green. It doesn't need to be mono green. You can put in your Muldrotha for 4 mana, instant speed, or whatever other crazy green creature you have. Like the new Atraxa. Next up we have Shadowheart Dark Justicar. Keeping in the theme of mono black insane card draw, we have a 3/1 for a 3/4 legendary creature, Human Elf Cleric. Tap 1 and a black, tap, sacrifice another creature, draw X cards where X is that creature's power, choose a background. This is an insanely valued creature, similar to Doomweaver. You can instant speed sacrifice a big ol' creature, and then draw a ton of cards. Again, doesn't even cost you life. You sack a 20/20, you don't lose 20, draw 20, you just draw 20. It's kinda crazy. And if you again have a big creature deck, this is an awesome payoff. Especially if they try to go to remove one of your creatures, and then you just, on the stack, sack it for a boatload of cards. What's that? You play against black decks all the time? Well, have I got the card for you. Reap. For 1 and a green, it is an instant that says return any number of target cards from your graveyard to your hand. You cannot choose more cards than number of black permanents target opponent controls. So, you can just... They have 5 creatures in their 5 permanents, hell, on the battlefield that are black. You get, for 2 mana, instant speed, return 5 cards, not permanents, cards, from your graveyard to your hand. This is honestly value even if they only have 1 black permanent, because now you're just playing regrowth at instant speed. It's really, really good. The only downside, of course, is if absolutely no one is playing a black deck, which is very unlikely. Still not satisfied with all of your opponent's black decks and getting value off of them? What about Compost? For 1 and a green is an enchantment that says whenever a black card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you draw a card. Milled, discarded, dies, doesn't matter. You draw a card for every single one. Now, to be fair, this does only say black card. Tokens are not cards, so you will not draw cards off of your opponent's zombie tokens, but you will draw cards off of virtually everything else. Now, what about your problem is that pesky green deck with all of its ramp and card draw and pretty much everything? Ramp can do virtually everything but counter spells. Well, how about every single time any opponent casts a green spell, you draw a card? That's what Insight is. It is a less annoying heuristic study, but they can't pay the 1. You just get a card. And as long as at least one person is playing green at the table, you will get your money's worth. But it is blue, which is the color of Draw Ditch, so you can always just pitch it if no one's playing blue, or green rather. Final card for our list today is yet another card draw spell that also functions as a win con. Eldritch Pact is a whopping 6 and a black sorcery. Target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of cards in their graveyard. This card is awesome in a mill deck specifically. It can also just catch people off guard. Games go long. Sometimes people have upwards of 20 to 30 cards in their graveyard. To just be like 7 mana, you're dead. It's a pretty powerful effect. Like I said, it's especially effective in mill decks, but if even one player is playing some kind of deck that mills themselves or loots a lot, well, you have 7 mana, they die. And if not, you can always use it on yourself to draw a new grip. It's pretty versatile. Thank you for checking out my 10 weird janky value engines. I will be back very quickly with yet another list of 10 super awesome cards. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite was, if you have any suggestions, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff you know you hate to hear people say. Have a nice day.